Hi, I'm Obsessing Again. This video is a deep dive into the mind of Nathan Drake in Uncharted 4. Nathan Drake is the main mascot that defined the PlayStation 3 generation. The light-hearted treasure hunter was initially seen as a mixture of Lara Croft and Indiana Jones, and yet after various releases he stood the test of time. All the Uncharted games follows a hero's tale we've all become accustomed to. Drake seeks treasure, obstacles get in his way, voyaging from location to location, and at some point he gets the hero send-off. Whilst Uncharted 4 doesn't stray too far away from this formula, it's the incredible character development and progressive way of telling stories which elevates him from the first three games.
Sir Francis Drake, who was buried at sea over 400 years ago. Are you sure you want to be defiling your ancestors' remains like that?
You make it sound so dirty. Besides,
our first introduction to this character came in 2007 as we saw a younger Nathan Drake pulling a coffin from the sea with no specific plan, shooting from the hip with a frustrated woman who would later become his wife. His journey is constantly falling into deep treasures and expeditions, and yet Uncharted 4 is exploring unfamiliar territory, inner feelings and turmoil. When we're reintroduced to Nathan at the beginning of this game, we're thrown into the deep end, literally. It puts us in the driving seat that we're used to, only to be thrown overboard into a flashback of a young Nate. The narrative themes of Uncharted 4 can be broken down into two categories. The first is brotherhood. It's a through line that goes deeper into Nate's background beyond his quips and bull in a china shop attitude. Seeing his upbringing in an orphanage highlights his consistency in wanting to be a rogue explorer without someone over his shoulder. Seeing a younger and just as rebellious Nathan Drake is fitting. This section is an excellent tutorial, but being introduced to Sam is surprising. The cooler, wiser older brother instills his delinquent behaviour as they venture over the rooftops of Nate and Sam's orphanage. Due to the death of their mother, the bond between the two brothers is sacred. They are undoubtedly joined at the hip. This first flashback feeds well into a prison sequence set years later. A diamond in the rough Nate, who's older, is scrapping it out of prisoners. We eventually see a prison break that leads to a frantic chase, all for Sam to be shot and presumed dead. Fast forward years later and we're introduced to the second theme of understanding Nathan Drake.
We gotta move.
Oh no, he's still down there.
No, he's gone. Come on, the boat's just beyond the wall.
hey, by my watch, you're down to a quarter tank. You want to come up?
Nah, I'll be fine. Can't be far.
The mundanity of living a normal life. This incarnation of the seasoned treasurer has become regressed, almost like an artifact stored in the back of a cupboard. He's longing for adventure, that next spark. Whilst the opening doesn't mention such a thing, his cargo recovery job only highlights the lack of heroism that we're used to. Walking the deck of a larger vessel, fist bumping over a recovery of copper wires is a far cry from any other adventure.
You smell.
I don't know, man. I kind of like it. Reminds me of your mom.
That's cold, man.
Nate's enthusiasm is infectious, but we all know it's just a front. When we later see him reminiscing about previous adventures, he springs into action with Nerf-like guns, shooting plastic targets, shimmying in his attic, deeply submerged into his suburban life.
Well, playtime's over.
Discovering Nathan's home only reinstates what we've learned about him and Elena. The messy rooms and eclectic room decor highlight how well travelled he is, and the blasé nature of leaving such a mess. Whether it's in his home or a temple. The lived-in rooms and photo albums also act as a way to show the passing of time between the third and fourth installments. It reaffirms the time elapsed. A gentle focal point in these games comes from Elena. She's a well-written character but is initially understated in this game. Curled up on the sofa, this exchange is when Naughty Dog are at their best. The dialogue feels effortlessly relatable. Her probing questions about his uneventful scissor reel from his day and his mind being elsewhere shows a level disconnect. Unlike Lara or Indy, she's followed that same journey. While she continues her passion, she is aware Nate isn't fulfilled. No mainstream job could deliver that satisfaction of his previous adventures, which probes the question, what next for Nathan Drake?
It's about your height, a little bit leaner, definitely less gray in the temples.
Sam?
It's good to see you again, Nathan.
God, Sam.
The next, being the discovery of Sam being alive, is a concoction of mixed feelings. Astonishment that shifts to confusion, bittersweet for time past, and an overriding sense of guilt. This guilt of not knowing or being able to get Sam out of prison eats away at Nate. Sam laments at making up for lost time. This rekindling of a brotherhood seems to be at the detriment of a blood debt. It festers a dilemma between conforming to the suburban lifestyle he has with Elena, and that burning desire for just adventure.
Okay, a few years back, I got roped into breaking into this Turkish museum to steal this oil lamp, okay?
Oil lamp?
It was an artifact from Marco Polo's lost treasure fleet.
Kublai Khan's treasure.
Yeah, and as it turns out, there was a whole hell of a lot more on those ships than just treasure.
From the first flashback, we can see Sam influences Nate's decisions. And due to the nature of them making up for lost time, we can forgive Nate for overlooking his morally poor choices. When the two brothers pick up from where they left off, they are jetting to Italy, where we're reintroduced to the fan favourite, Sully.
I think I can handle a simple lift. All right.
The frosty reception between Sully and Sam highlights their stances with Nathan. Sully, the paternal figure, is looking out for Nate's best interests, while Nate is blindsided by an inherent trust in his brother. Because blood does run thicker than water.
Hey, let's switch places. All right, climb over me. I've got a good grip.
Okay.
As the boys scale the building with childlike bets and sibling rivalry, it's clear how much time has passed by.
It'd suck if you missed right now.
It sure would. But I don't miss.
While they may have picked up where they left off, Nate lived those adventures and discovered treasures, while Sam was behind bars all those years. These anecdotes feed into Nate's guilt and Sam's envy. Further on in the story, we find Nate, Sam and Sully diving deeper into finding Avery's treasure, which brings them to Scotland. As the antagonists Rafe and Nadine are dynamiting their way to finding clues, the brothers scale across eroded caves, climbing on rickety wooden stairs. The big takeaway from Scotland was a puzzle centred around Jesus, Dismas and Gestas, as the story goes. According to the New Testament, two men beside Jesus were on the crucifix. Both Dismas and Gestas are named thieves, and yet one is good and one is bad. This game is called A Thieves' End, and the second game is named Among Thieves. The franchise is comfortable with their protagonist being a thief. But what this section of this game does is question whether Nathan is Dismas or Gestas. Can you have a good thief? While he's murdered a lot of people in gunfights, I've never seen Drake as inherently bad, and neither would he. Upon replaying this segment, you can't help but feel it's foreshadowing the eventual betrayal from Sam.
That was a close one, huh?
Shut up my goddamn plane, Nathan.
We're fine, thanks.
Scotland doesn't have the treasures, and it points in the direction of Madagascar. We get a back and forth between the three guys. Nate convinces Scotland is just an initiation to this lost treasure, Sully quizzes, and Sam undermines the idea of initiation, saying,
Oh, so we all passed, huh?
Congrats, Victor. We get eye patches and parrots now.
These cutscenes are crucial to bridging the story between location to location, and what is more important is Nate's disregard for the truth. For him to travel without Elena's suspicion, he uses the diving company as a cover-up for a trip to Malaysia. The crushing parallels to him being on an exotic shipping dock with a sunset backdrop and his wife perched up on the sofa with her face lit from the TV glare. He's a hero to gamers, but when analysing him, he's a scoundrel and a thief. The comfort he has to blatantly lie to Elena makes for an uncomfortable watch. Instead of overly quizzing him on going to a monsoon country, she goes along with it. Though it may have raised suspicions, like any good partner, she trusted him. And like any bad partner, he lied.
I love you.
Love you too.
The following hours of Madagascar are arguably the most cinematic and satisfying in gameplay. As this video is centered around Nathan Drake, who he is and the journey he's on, in this section he's clearly at his most comfortable, being in the most imperiled situation. It harkens back to the Nathan Drake we've come to love from previous games. Narratively, it ties into Nate's adolescence of being almost a street urchin and never belonging. The conformity to societal standards of getting married, buying a house and settling down are not inherently him. It's that turmoil, that difficulty he internally fights to be what his partner needs. Falling from dizzying heights of cathedrals and being dragged from the back end of a car is him. His biggest influence as a kid, besides his heroes, is Sam. So when Sam puts forward a life and death situation for family, you do anything, even if it means putting everything on the line just for one more roll of the dice.
Rafe figures it out, we'll be well on our way to Libertalia.
Fending off the army of villain Rafe and Nadine, the boys swagger home to their condo to be confronted with Elena. It's a poignant scene between the couple. It proves Nate's way of bending the truth has caught up with him. There are two key points in this cutscene. Besides Sully being caught in the firing line between the two, it's also Sam. Depending on which way you look at it, it's either the biggest plot hole in this franchise or the most deeply personal hardship. Up to this point, Sam Drake was unknown to Elena, and even better, he had never been mentioned or referenced in previous games. The leader in Uncharted up until mid-production of Uncharted 4 was Amy Hennig. She was pivotal in bringing a classic screen appearance to our protagonist. I liken him to an 80s blockbuster action star. As she departed the studio, Naughty Dog's own Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley took over. Bruce had previously worked on Uncharted more extensively than Neil. Their take on this character and franchise is best displayed in this scene. For as charming as Nate is, he can't run from his lies and hide from the truth. The Nathan Drake of previous games would have brushed this off.
Stop lying to yourself. I got a plane to catch. You do what you have to do.
Nate has always stolen and sometimes bartered his way through life. The life of a rogue was comfortable for him, and maybe his deepest treasure was his brother as his only family, keeping it close to his chest so no one can steal that from him. This kept secret leaves more questions than answers. Elena up to this point has seen and known all aspects of Nate's life, so to keep that from your partner seems inconsistent. Perhaps the guilt was too overbearing. This confrontation makes for an uncomfortable viewing, especially when he tries to explain the knotted mess he's got himself wrapped up in, but also leaves countless opportunities he could have been honest. As Elena leaves, Sam doubles down on finding the treasure. While we know he's doing it to save his brother, his old ways are fueling his drive for Avery's treasure. Sully takes a back seat in this story, but he provides stability and advice when it's needed, such as telling him to go after Elena.
Nathan? Yeah.
The following segment sees the two brothers scour every fossil and artifact on two neighbouring islands. We see Nate's optimism and Sam's glass half-empty view. After some time, the tide turns and brings us full circle with the game's opening. Nathan Drake has this unwavering alliance with his brother, which is understandable. Finding Avery's treasure and looking out for his brother are his biggest motivations. Being washed up from the boat crash and climbing up rocky cliffs, you can reconvene to discover the unknown village. The lavish buildings and dense detail allow for optional conversations which reinstate the most important mission: get the Avery treasure to save Sam.
Not a bad view.
Hey. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Sam, what kind of story did you cook up, Alcazar?
Really? You lied? You lied to your baby brother?
The most cruel and fabricated lie is harrowing, but it shouldn't be surprising. Sam has a slightly more confident streak with a tendency to bend the truth. From the moment he shows us the bike he bought in a coy way, he is always leading Nate astray. It's an expected twist and it doubles down on Sam's selfishness. Nate had the opportunity to decline Sam's invitation, but the blood that he felt was owed was his way of repaying Sam. When you consider that Sam knew of Elena, his stable home, and put that life behind him, it's equally cruel to pry on it. In some way, it's a very Drake thing to be this slippery. It's agonising to see Nate tricked by his brother, putting everything on the line just to save him. A back and forth between Sam, Nathan and antagonist Rafe as we see our hero shot, stumbling off a cliff, bumping his head and plunging into the water. A lot of Nathan Drake's characters explored in the present story, but also in the flashbacks. The dialogue shows the dynamic between an older and younger brother. He's not meek, only inexperienced, but compensates with his in-depth knowledge of tombs or tribal artifacts. And yet all of these experiences we encounter are secondary to his identity. Learning of him being born as Nathan Morgan and adopting the identity of Nathan Drake, inspired by Francis Drake, this rebirth allowed him to forge a new identity, to aspire to be something greater than a boy without his mother in a religious orphanage. His mother being an explorer reaffirms that this lifestyle is his destiny. A lasting impression I got from this segment in particular is the way both brothers lean on each other in different ways. There's an undeniable brotherhood, but they are like brothers in arms. This segment also adds a lot to their characters. The discovery of this mansion, having a woman still living there, brings out this darker tone that we're used to. The young brothers plead their innocence and double down on the connection to their mother. They see this lady die in front of them. Sirens light the dimly lit building and the fight or flight nature then kicks in. In typical Sam fashion, it's about evading and being on the run. This is something that follows Nathan Drake running from his problems and never directly confronting them. Which brings us to Elena.
Come to me so that we can work through it together as a team.
I know that. Really, I do. It's just...
You know, we should stay focused.
At the start of this video, I spoke of Elena playing an understated role at the start of this story. She comes into her own when she rescues Nathan. There's that saying, behind every strong man is an even stronger woman, and she defines that. What I like about her is no smugness or I told you so. She addresses the situation and is there to support Nathan. The back and forth between the pair is seamless. It's my favourite dynamic. It shows the comfort they find in one another and how Nathan is in awe of her. And because of this, there are many moments where he is uncharacteristically apologetic. Nathan gets so emotionally caught up in his guilt, and yet Elena parks it to one side to talk about once this fiasco is over. Their relationship is being tested emotionally, but also from all the bumps and scrapes from Rafe's army and the terrain of free climbing.
Watch this. Hang on!
We did it!
You sound surprised.
Maybe a little.
Her character, interests and motivations have always been in adventure, exploration and uncovering the unknown. Not the extent of Nathan, but her aura and beliefs have facilitated Nathan fulfilling his. As the ending ramps up with tremendous set pieces, enemies in waves and dramatic shootouts, saving Sam seems to be the bittersweet ending the game appears to lean towards. The sacrifice made by all the crew for Sam to palm off to one side to finally chase the final treasures and end the goose chase. While Nathan has fully accepted that his days in this line of work are over, Sam still has that itch to scratch. As Drake begins to retrace his brother's steps, a temporary goodbye and love you is uttered to Elena. To her testament, she doesn't forbid him to do it, she accepts it for what it is, something that I don't believe to be reciprocated.
I love you.
Same to you, cowboy.
The final chapter of this story is of mixed emotions. In this video, I've strayed away from the moment-to-moment gunplay and level design. This segment is probably the weakest. As an antagonist, Rafe isn't scary or intimidating. He's far from an ultimate foe. For our first introduction to an adult Sam, he appears slimy, so the twist never came as a big surprise. I don't feel anger as a player, it's more pitiful. The final duel in a sinking ship of gold acts as a metaphor for chasing the treasures. The treasure brings out the worst in thieves and opportunists. All to be fixated on the gold, plunging deeper into the chase as the ship brings you down. The janky sword fight offers little to Nate apart from his desire to save Sam and leave the gold. His fighting stance is defensive. This stems from a lack of hatred or anger towards Rafe.
Oh, I'm just leaving.
As Rafe is defeated, a bloodied Sam and Drake head towards the opening of the cave. The loose ends of the story are tied up back at the port as Nathan and Lena buy the company Nate was working for. Merging her camera skills and reporting we first saw brings it full circle to Uncharted 1.
Nate, all you need to know is that you'd be making a very wise investment.
An unexpected epilogue appears. A young girl perched on the corner of her bed, playing a familiar game and little else to be said or scripted. Walking along a house or condo steeped in colour, varying rooms and consistency in messiness and locations leads to one idea of who this girl is. As you leave the home, a desolate island of lushness, blue shores and sand implies new surroundings. Playing out as this girl, following her steps, brings her to this mighty wardrobe. A lock, a key, and a discovery that comes full circle.
Way. Whoa.
Artifacts, photos, souvenirs from another time, and a voice from behind.
Hey, there you are.
Hey.
Been looking for you. What are you doing in here?
A seasoned, slightly grey-haired Nathan Drake and Elena appear. The mischievousness of this young girl we know to be Cassie Drake, relishing the thought of adventure like her mother and father, is the ultimate ending to the hero we've come to love. Naughty Dog has been able to bring relatable depth to the lovable rogue we all thought we knew. Upon replaying, his likability stems from him not always knowing the answer. He might mutter rhetorical questions about puzzles, but the line delivery, acting, and overall story setup are where we derive meaning. Uncharted 4 is a story that examines the themes of brotherhood, turmoil, and the pursuit of never-ending riches, and what they promise. The biggest takeaway for Nate in this game is being content. Cassie brings a natural progression in Nate's life to steer him from those adventures, and maybe for her to take the mantle. The only question is, what is next for Nathan Drake, the 2-bit thief?
Hey, are you happy?
Yeah, of course. You? Really?
Thank you for letting me obsess again.